This is Mitch, and welcome to the Real Estate Investor Summit podcast. I'm here with Chris Naugle, and this guy's all over the place, man. He travels like the wind. He has speaking engagements all throughout the year. He has courses and classes, and he's teaching people how money really works, which is, I think, probably the biggest obstacle in everyone's mind when they first get started. It is like, I don't have any money, so I can't do this, which is a bunch of crap. Because if we needed money to do it, probably Chris wouldn't be here, and I know I wouldn't be here if you needed money to start. So once you learn that concept that you don't need your own money to do this, then the whole world opens up. So with no further ado, how you doing, Chris?
I'm doing great, and thanks for having me on the show.
So where are you sitting right now? What city?
Buffalo, New York right now.
And the man, he's working on being successful. He lives out of a barn right now. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
It looks like it, right? Farmhouse.
Yeah, the guy has like this 8,000 square foot facility with 2 podcast studios, one for training and one for an event center and everything else. So really a very successful person. Got it going on. His wife runs the real estate side. He's running the educational side. And we're going to get to some real content here because I think this is one of the most important issues of the day when it comes to real estate investing. It's what about the money? So right before we get started, I want you to give us just a little background, who you are, where you're from, how you got here. Just the bullet points, please, because I know you could give us a biography 800 pages long, but
I will. I'll keep it nice and short. So Chris Naugle, born and raised Buffalo, New York as a young child. Always, I grew up very humble, very low income family. Always had a big dream. I was a big dreamer. And first dream I wanted was to be a pro snowboarder. And everybody says, you can't do that. You live in Buffalo, you'll never make it. And lo and behold, I became a pro snowboarder, and that just kind of set the pace for the whole thing. I was self-employed since 16 years old, had a terrible job working for a restaurant, was degraded terribly. So that led me into being self-employed, started in the clothing business, created clothes, then moved on to opening retail stores in the skateboard, snowboard industry, ran those successfully for 16 years, and it was all going great. I landed in the financial services industry, became an advisor in 2003. I did that for 16 and a half years until just last year when I retired. And, everybody's story sounds great if you just look at all the good things, but you don't learn from the wins. You learn from the failures. And I have failed more times than I think most people I've ever met. And many of my big failures started in early 2000s in the first recession. Then again, I fell flat on my face in 2008. I was literally one payment away from being bankrupt. Then I got back on my feet, started buying lots of real estate again in 2009 because Warren Buffett says, buy low. So that's what I did. Almost fell on my face again in 2014. You see, what I didn't understand is how money worked. I kept doing what I was trained and taught my entire life about money as an advisor. Right? Yeah. So just, basically where we're at today, we own and operate 8 different companies worth about, $11 million to date, flipped about 247 houses, rental portfolios, wholesale operations. And like you said, I travel nationally, speak on stages with Grant Cardone, Ed Milet, and teach people how money really works. That's my passion.
There you go. Quite a mouthful, quite a record. And you're absolutely right. And I think that's one thing people can really connect with is the struggle or your time in the forest.
Lots of time there.
I have a book, My Life in 1,000 Houses, Failing Forward to Financial Freedom. I'm about to come up with my 4th book, but people call me all the time and say, man, I really related to your book. And they start telling me the story. And I'm thinking, man, we don't sound like we're alike at all, except what they're latching onto is the struggle or the time in the woods. And it's universal. I don't think anybody gets anywhere without going through at least one patch of darkness, probably multiple. But so here you are, you've had these failures, you've had these successes, probably floating along medium to medium well, and then where's the turning point? What opens up? What changes everything?
It was interesting. 2014. Like I was saying, I was buying real estate, got up to 36 units from 9 to 14 and fell on my face again. almost lost everything, including my fiance, who's now my wife. In 14, we had to sell off every single property we had. We had to sell our dream house that we had just bought. And I was doing well. I was making high six digits as an advisor, but it wasn't so much that. It was just I was using money the wrong way. And in 14, literally, this is where it goes. I got a postcard in the mail. We've all gotten one of these, right? To go learn how to flip houses at this 3-day seminar. And at that point, I was so humbled by my failures. I had nothing to lose. And to go to this seminar, they were giving away a free iPod shuffle. I had no money, so an iPod shuffle got me there. And that's when it all changed, because I learned one thing. I didn't learn a bunch. I learned one thing at that, and I learned what the wealthy, the elite, and the successful investors were doing was the complete opposite of what I was doing. And that is where it all changed. I dove in. I started learning the secrets of the wealthy. I started learning how money worked, how private money worked, how hedge funds operated. And that's kind of the turning point, because our whole life, and you mentioned it earlier, everybody either doesn't get into the business or gets into the business and money's an issue. You just always think you need more. You don't know where to get it. You think you got to have money to make money. And I lived my whole life that way until I learned that the banks don't use their own money. Why am I using my own money? So that was the turning point, 2014 at that 3-day summit.
An iPad shuffle.
That's the reason I went. No kidding. I literally, I'll never forget that day. Rainy April. My wife was watching Tarek and Christina on Flip or Flop. She wouldn't go because she was so caught up into it. And I'm like, I'm just going to go to get this iPod shuffle. I'll be home in an hour. Yeah, right. I came home. Yeah, you know this story. I spent $2,000 to.
Who did you go see? Who did you go see?
That was it was Zurich's. That was the Tarek and Christina one. That's what the postcard was. And I came home and I was so fired up. I'm Riss. I figured it out. I found out what we're gonna do and how we're gonna change our life and how we're gonna get out of this mess. Oh, and by the way, sweetie, I charged $2,000 on the credit card. Don't be mad. Yeah, well, you can only imagine how that went. First, I had to get over the hurdle of the $2,000 I spent that we didn't have.
Then you had to go home and take the pummeling. About
I needed to tell my wife, you have to take a day off of work to come to this seminar out in Rochester with me. Yeah, that didn't go over well, but that was the defining moment that changed everything for us.
But what a nice moment, because half of the struggle is hope or vision, and someone lit a fire under you, and showed you something that you felt like you could do. And those are scary times, but they're also some of the best times when you look back, because everything's new and it's coming at you and you're growing 1,000,000 miles an hour. And hopefully you got with the right people and they really told you some common sense stuff and didn't just try to sell you a bag of crap.
No, it was the people 100% that took us under their wings and really kind of just showed us the path. It's not like they didn't hold our hand and say, do this, don't do that. But what they did is they solidified our hope and our dreams. Then they gave us a plan, and they basically held us accountable for our actions. And that was the biggest things that allowed us to get there. And plus, we learned from what they were doing. We just mimicked what they were doing. That's all we did.
Well, you sound like you took off right from the get-go, but I hear a lot of stories all the time. People try something or try a educational group one time, and it didn't work out the first time or the second time. I was like a third time guy. I just wouldn't give up on it. I knew I had the right idea, but I didn't think that I got the right people, and it wasn't necessarily their fault. We just didn't mesh in the way I needed to learn and the way they were teaching it, until I got to a point and I landed in the right place with the right person. And then, oh my gosh, I couldn't believe my life. I mean, I couldn't believe it was all good. And I wasn't rich by any means, but you had the same kind of stories. Have you been to some that didn't work out, or have you always?
Oh, absolutely. So like I only told you about the one that did work out. I didn't talk about all the ones that we went to before that were just a waste, where, you go, it's a pitch fest. They're trying to sell you something. And, after you buy something, it's just like, okay, see you guys. There was plenty of those, but this one was very different because my wife resonated with the main instructor and the show. Yep. And obviously that we did end up landing a show on HGTV last year, partly because of that defining moment right there. We had a ton of them that didn't work out. I think one of the biggest things with success or failure, with education is really the application of the knowledge. It's not the knowledge. We can get the knowledge for free on podcasts like this or books, but it's really when you take the knowledge and someone kind of, I don't want to say gives you a kick in the butt, but gives you a kick in the butt to get you to apply that knowledge and take action. And that was this one. They really kind of held our hand accountable to take action. And we did. And boy, did we ever take action, to the point where like I said, there was a rough road where we went in heavy, and you know how flipping works. Sometimes they don't work out quite well. Well, we had a little string of flips, I think 2011, if I can't remember the exact date, 2011, where we had a couple losses and it almost sank us, but we just kept going at it, and that was it.
That's one of the most important things when you get into this business or any business. If you have some really bad things happen to you right up front, you could be out of a career that could have been stellar for you. And I was almost that guy. You know, I got in, and it didn't. I was having major troubles, and if I hadn't have stayed just a little bit past what I really thought I could hold on, I was just holding on. I never would have. I was almost out of this career, and this career has made me millions and millions and millions of dollars. And to think that I almost quit, but it's because I didn't know what I didn't know, and I was trying to do things the way I thought I knew how to do them, and they weren't even remotely close to how I was supposed to do it. And tapped me on the shoulder and told me, you know, hey, look over here, not over there, and stop doing this, do that, and why the hell is this happening? And I'm like, you know.
And Mitch, you said something that really resonated right there. And, you know, I just want to reiterate that because it's so important for everybody to understand is, you know, the path to success is not all wins. You know, to succeed, you have to fail because you learn more from the failures. Our failures that we've had, and failures are maybe you didn't make money on a flip, or maybe this didn't work. Every failure is where we learned. And those learnings, you know, those teachings, if you will, are what got us where we're at today. Just much like what you said, you have to almost fail to succeed, and everybody's going to fail. It's the difference is some people quit. And once you quit, it's all over. That is when it all ends, because, you know, the biggest thing is you're going to fail. It's just don't give up. Keep going. And if I can share one other thing that you mentioned that I think is so important is the big takeaway that we learned during those periods when we were failing is we were so focused on one aspect of real estate, flipping, right? So you know how flips work. You put a ton of money in, you're sitting, waiting. Then all of a sudden you're waiting for it to sell, and then maybe a sale falls through and there's no cash flow. So we were told by our mentors that you can't just focus on one thing. You have to have multiple lines of business. So what we did is we developed 3 strategies. First, every property we get, we will wholesale if we can. If we can't wholesale it, we move it down the line to try to flip it. If we can't make 20% flipping it, it moves over to the rental pool. And then we basically take the deal and we do a BRRRR. We rehab it, rent it out, refinance it with the bank, and we just portfolio that. So once we learned that and we started building that, the rentals supported the flips, the wholesale supported the flips, and then our business was more level and easy to operate.
Yeah, same thing. I have like 8 companies. They all start and feed off of a flipping company. You know, it's like you have this exhaust coming out of your tailpipe. What do I do with it? I mean, if you're in the lumber, if you're in the business of sawing trees into boards, what do you got? You got a big pile of sawdust. You can either pay to take it to the dump, or you can sell it to someone, or figure out a product to make out of the sawdust. So that's basically the thing.
I love that analogy.
There it is. What are you going to do with it? You know,
that's great. I love that.
Haul it off? No. Let's buy some glue and mix it together and press it into some cheaper board. You know what I mean? Or put poison in it and call it pesticides and sprinkle it around the house. I don't know. Anyways, got to do something. So we're going to be giving away a free 90-minute webinar, and we're going to jump into the subject of what money is really for and how to use money. Tell us about the giveaway real quick.
Yeah. So one of the things that I do from stage, and I think it's one of the most valuable things, is I teach people a 200-year-old banking strategy that's used by the wealthiest individuals, including banks. And the best takeaway of what this webinar gives everybody is it's going to teach you 2 basic things. Number one, it's going to teach you how to get all the money back for every car you will ever buy, drive, and own. There is no fluff to that. Literally, when you watch this webinar, you will know exactly how to buy every single car for the rest of your life and how to get all the money back for every one of those cars. You've never known how to do that. The second thing we show people how to do is we give an example of how we showed somebody how to pay off debt, but not just to pay off debt. This person paid off debt in 6 years, which would have taken him 19, but then he recycled and recaptured all of the money he was paying to everybody else. So we'll show you a method to recycle and recapture all the money you're giving away to all the credit cards and all the banks out there. You can keep it all in your own household. That's what the webinar teaches.
Okay, so we're going to go to REInvestorSummit.com OPM. That's other people's money. I'm sure it's going to apply throughout this conversation.
Mhm.
And, to your point, I bought a little ranch in Texas, not 40 minutes from that little tower right there. Where is it? That tower. And it's 40 minutes south. And it's 160 acres. Nice place. House, pool, barns. But I leased the 440 around me from the neighboring rancher. And so I'm hunting 600. It costs about $10,000 a year to lease that 440. And I got four of my best friends that like to hunt, and I charge them $2,500 a piece. And I'm hunting 600. I'm paying for 160. You know what I mean?
Right.
And we're all having a good time, and it works out perfect. So there's 100 ways to skin a cat, and you don't have to pay for all of it. And if you get really
smart, kitty cats out of this.
Yeah, leave the kitty. and if you get really smart, you won't pay for any of it. So, how money really works? Kick us off here.
So, the thing is that 2014, the biggest takeaway I got from that is what I learned is, we go through life and we're taught that money works a certain way. We're taught when we need money, we go to the bank and we get a loan, or we use a credit card, or we get a line of credit. Those are the things we're taught. But really what that is doing our whole life, how we're taught is we're taught to basically give up control. We are never in control. When we're borrowing money and using everybody else's money, from the bank standpoint, we're not in control. I'm not saying don't use other people's money, but the other thing we are all taught is to give up our good dollars today and get paid back with weaker dollars. Let me give you an example. Most people, their largest savings vehicle is employer-sponsored retirement plans. So essentially, think about that. You're taught your whole life to put money in retirement, so someday, 59 and a half or beyond, you can retire happily, ride off into the sunset. Tell me how many people you know that actually ride off into the sunset, because statistically, only 5 out of 100 people nationwide, countrywide, actually retire successfully. Only 5%. That's sad, but it's because the whole system is working against you. You're giving up your good dollars today by putting money into these vehicles. You're getting a tax deduction, but then that money's compounding over time, building to a larger sum. And then someday later, you're going to take that money back, be taxed at a higher rate, and you've lost control for that whole time. The funniest thing I've found in learning what I know now is we do things with money that we would never do with things that money buys. Let me give you an example. Would you ever go to the store, buy a loaf of bread, come home, put it in your freezer, come back 5, 10, 15 years later, open that freezer, take out that loaf of bread and be like, yum? No, it'd be a freezer burned lump of bread that you would never eat. You'd never buy a car and wait 5, 10, 15 years to drive that car. And you would never certainly buy a house and wait 5, 10, 15 years to live in the house. Your spouse would divorce you. But yet we do that with money. We give up our money today, and then we're okay with just being paid back later. And then during that whole time, we just borrow money from the institutions because they've made it easy enough for us to get money, and we're a slave to the very thing that we've created. The one thing people don't realize, they just think this is normal. This is not normal. Okay. This is just what you've been taught. There's a whole nother side of what the wealthy do with money. And if you just peel the onion once, you will see a whole different light. In 2014, I saw that. I saw what the wealthy were doing with money was the complete opposite of what I was doing. And I was a financial advisor at a high level, a Wall Street level. And what they taught me as an advisor was the complete opposite of what these guys were doing. So I had like this mind thing going on where I didn't even know what to do. Is this right or is this right? Well, as I continued down the path, I learned that what the wealthy do, mimicking them, mimicking what banks do, and just copying that is the path to freedom. That's what gets you off the financial hamster wheel. Everybody makes it seem so much like it's about money, but it's not about the money. It's not even about the economy. Everybody's like, oh, well, the economy went down, I couldn't make money. It's not about that. There's more opportunity in a down market than there is in an up market. Right now, we're at the top of the market. There's opportunity, but it's scarce. You wait another year when this market turns, and mark my word, the market will turn. It always has, and it always does. And I know things that, most people don't. When it goes down, that's when your opportunity strikes. But if you're not ready for that opportunity, if you don't have your bank ready, and I don't mean your bank is your money. You might be like, yeah, Chris, but I don't have any money. So how can I have my bank ready? Again, you didn't listen. You have to mimic what the banks do. Banks make $400 to $1,300 or 1,300% off of every dollar you leave there at the bank. Why are you not using other people's money? If you want to get into real estate, learn how money works. Mimic the banks. Use other people's money to get your deal, but do it smart. Make sure that when you're using other people's money, you're doing it in a manner and in a fashion where you understand the steps in the process of how that works to protect yourself and also protect the investor. So I could go on for days about this stuff, but that just kind of gives a quick summary of these things.
Well, it definitely gets some education, and then take control of your financial future. You know, if you drive down through town, the biggest buildings in town have a lending institution's name at the top of it.
Everyone.
Why the hell can't you lend money? There's no law against you lending money now on certain things in certain ways, but there's also very many ways to lend your money. I mean, it's not, you have to look at your risk reward formula, right? Like, what's the reward and how much risk am I putting for that reward? And you find some sweet spot in the middle where there's not so much risk, if any at all. And well, there's always risk, right? Can we agree on that? There's no risk. I mean, you know, from lightning to meteors to nuclear bombs and terrorists, and there's something can happen. There's no 100% thing. In fact, SEC tell you it's against the law to guarantee a rate of return or guarantee, because you can't. You know, and every time, what I find funny is every time you go to the bank, and we'll talk about this, because there's times to sign the personal guarantee, and there's times that you don't have to, and you shouldn't, and why should you if you don't have to? You just need to recognize those times, right? But when you sign that guarantee to the bank, you are guaranteeing everything that could possibly happen in the world, from hurricane to flood to lightning to, you know, armies and wars and the whole thing. And it seems kind of ridiculous that you would put your signature on there, and the audacity of you to think that you could guarantee something.
Right.
You know, the audacity. Yep. So try to learn to, especially in the beginning days, to find money that's non-recourse or collateral only, because at the end of the day, if you loan $50,000 on a $100,000 house or $200,000 on a $400,000 house, the chances of you going under are pretty nil if you know how to do your due diligence and size up that collateral. Because just because someone told you it's worth 400 doesn't mean it is, and doesn't mean there's something that's not hidden. So, you know, I went the long way. Probably if I'd have just known how to loan money at a fair rate 20 years before I did, I may have never even gotten in this business, because I may have never needed to.
Right.
But so
the ultimate is that, just being the bank, learning how that works. If you could just be the bank, I mean, that's the ultimate in the real estate world.
At least if you get your education and you take your own financial control, you can look in the mirror and you won't have an Enron to blame, or you won't have whatever corporation who went out of business who cut your retirement in half the last 2 years of your stay. You know, you will have no one to blame but yourself, and you won't put yourself in those positions, you know, and you could forecast. Absolutely. These people knew they were going broke years before they told you, or before it showed up on the news. If you were taking control of your own future, you'd have seen the signs of what you were doing wrong years in advance, and you could have corrected. But they're not going to tell you.
You're so right, Mitch. And the funny thing is, you know, sometimes you got to look yourself in the mirror. You know, you got to look at yourself in the mirror, and you got to ask yourself, the people that are giving me advice on money, why are they telling me the things that they are? Well, I came from the advisory world. Now, I guess, you know, again, you learn from your failures. So as an advisor, I drank the Kool-Aid and I wore the pretty, you know, rosy colored glasses. And advisors are in the business of selling a product or charging a fee. So the advice that they're giving you is always derived back to what pays them the most. And you got to think about that. So the advice you're being given, stocks, bonds, mutual funds, why? Well, because that's how they're getting paid. That's how they're making the most money. There's no reason why people in the financial business make a ton of money. It's because you're paying it. So you got to realize that. And the biggest advice I can give people right now is understanding the market cycles. Is we are in the 11th year of a proverbial 7-year market. Actually, it's a 5-year, but let's push it to 7-year market cycle. We're in the 11th year. We are out of fuel. The only reason we're still going is someone every once in a while puts a little drop of fuel in the tank just to keep it going. You're seeing these things happen. But yet your advisors are telling you, buy more stock, buy more mutual funds, put more money into the market. You are literally buying high, and you are going to lose when the market goes down. And people like myself and so many other people that have learned I guess you could call it the wealth without Wall Street, learned how to use money, they're going to be ready to take advantage of everybody else's losses. I hate to say that, but you need to be smart about it. Get out of the market right now. The smartest thing you can do is get your money out of all stocks, bonds, mutual funds right now. Sit on the sideline and then wait for the opportunity. Whatever your opportunity, real estate, buying stocks back when they go down 30, 40%, whatever it is.
Loaning money, find something you're passionate about it. Hopefully it's better to have a higher ticket item because you can buy at steeper discounts and make bigger margins, my show's sponsored by taxfreefuture.com. People that help you set up self-directed checkbook control IRAs or solo 401ks so that you can decide where your money goes. Now, there's some rules, and you got to learn the damn rules, just like you got to learn the rules to Monopoly or Parcheesi or anything else if you're going to win, but it's not overly sophisticated. It's really not. And some people go to their job and put more effort into that than you would ever put into figuring out some of these strategies. They're not that big a deal. You do have to get immersed in them and get your give a damn level up to a certain point. But it shouldn't be hard to get your give a damn level up. It's your money. It's your life. It's everything you do well is going to reflect in your lifestyle. And when you do bad, it will. So my pitch is taxfreefuture.com. If you don't have a self-directed tax-deferred or tax-free retirement plan, then you don't have any idea what you're missing. You have no idea the tool that you don't have in your tool belt. And there's a reason why the financial institutions don't tell you what they should tell you. And we're going to tell you what they're not telling you and why they're not telling you. And what if they walked in the bank with a bunch of money to put it in there and they pitch you, hey, we got a 1% CD. I love these billboards bragging like hell on 1%. I'm like, you should be ashamed of yourself. You spent $2,000 a month on a billboard to in exclamation points tell me I can make a whopping friggin' 1% that doesn't even keep up with inflation. It's 2 points behind at least. And the audacity of these assholes. You know what I'm saying? Give me a break. What if you walked into the bank and one guy looked at you and says, why don't you just loan it out yourself? Why would you give it to us and get 1% so we can make, why don't you loan it out yourself? No one in that business is ever going to do it. To your point, the financial advisors aren't going to tell you what to do either because they're not going to get a commission. So, but one thing I want to make clear, people are telling, you hear people, I made 14%, 16%, 18%, 20%. On average, if you can just make 8 to 10 to 12% steady for the rest of your life, you would have outperformed all these jerks.
You don't even need to make that much. The fact of the matter is, if you made 4% consistently over the entire time frame, never changed, you'd beat Wall Street every time. Just 4%.
But think about that. You set your goal for just 4% or 5%. What's going to happen is, as you get good in your strategy, there will be opportunities that walk in that you'll make 25%. You'll make 50% times, and now and then you'll make 100%, and it will skew the 4%. You set your goal to make a steady, and you make your bread and butter deals like that. But before it's over, whether you're flipping houses, flipping cars, making loans, at some point something happens and something skews the 4% upward. Right?
Absolutely. And that happens all the time. And the other thing, a lot of people, like you were talking about self-directed IRAs. I would say that I am somewhat of an expert in self-directed IRAs. I use them heavily in my own practice. I teach people how to use them because they are single-handedly one of the greatest financial vehicles, and they're available to everybody. They've always been available. It's no different than your IRA you own now. It's just you are allowed to direct where the money goes. And if you just understand how to use that, even if you don't want to swing hammers, you don't want to be in real estate because you just say it's too much work, there are ways to basically use self-directed IRAs, use your retirement funds without having to do money. You were just talking about that. There's so many other people that will basically pay you way more than Wall Street would. I mean, and literally, I'm just going to throw some numbers out, but I know of 2 places where you can get 9 or 16% on your money, and it's a note. It doesn't go up and down. It's a flat.
Say, I'll throw my hat in the ring. I borrow money at 8% I got $20 million worth of 8% money, and I have a stellar reputation and a long reputation and verifiable reputation. You can talk to anyone I ever borrowed money from. I got their phone numbers and their email addresses, call them. But here's the thing. I never borrow over 65% of the piece of collateral that I'm pledging. And I average borrowing 58%. So if I'm borrowing, if I want to buy a house that I can own or finance for 100 grand, I average borrowing 58,000 from some private individual, just like you out there listening. And I give you a first lien on it. And if I don't pay, which has never happened, but in the event I didn't pay, you would get a $100,000 house for your $58,000 cash. And you're probably going to do way better when that happens than me paying you 8%. So the way it's worded is the worst thing that'll happen to you is you're going to make 8% if everything goes right. The best thing will happen to you is if I don't pay you and you got my house, because you're going to be a big winner at that point, especially if you understand anything about seller financing in the state of Texas.
Winner, winner, chicken dinner. I got to give that one this. Dropping a bomb.
Drop the bomb. I mean, but you know, Chris actually takes people like you, runs them through a mill house, gets them an education, and he does it probably to protect the other side of the equation, which he's going to introduce you to people that have money, but he's not going to introduce somebody who doesn't know what the hell they're doing to his money people, because then there's going to be a freaking train wreck, and Chris Naugle's got his name all over it, and he doesn't want his name on a train wreck. So what he's doing, I think, is pretty smart. He's saying, I'm going to put the money people together with the energetic or the people that need to buy, but I'm not going to put you all together without me vetting both of you. You know, what is your expectations over here for the people over here? They got to be reasonable and fair. And the people that are borrowing the money, you need to know what the hell you're doing, because I'm not going to introduce you to these people over here if you're going to blow it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. The funny thing is, you know, when I started doing this, what you just described is exactly what we've created. And I did it almost self-serving. I looked at it. There's only two types of people out there in the world. There are people that have money that want to make more money. And we're going to call them the heads of the coin, right? So we're going to picture a coin, a quarter. On one side, you have the heads. That is all the people that have money that want to make money. And then on the tails, you've got people like real estate investors that need money to make money. The only thing missing of bringing the heads and the tails together is the thing that we always ignore, which is the edge of the coin, because it's so small, right? And it's so hard to really kind of look at it. The edge of the coin is financial education. We basically brought the heads and the tails together in a community, and we basically put together a very regimented 4-week education program that teaches people how money really works. Everything from traditional funding to private funding to the strategies that you have to use, and then the steps of putting the rubber to the road. And we don't allow either one of these two, the heads or the tails, to come together until they've learned the same exact education. So the lenders know what the borrowers know, and the borrowers know what the lenders know. So everybody's on the same page. Then we created a standard operating procedure. Literally just check the box off. And you got this, you got this, you got this. This is what banks do, folks. That's all it is. I'm not that smart to like literally create something that's never been done. Banks do this every day, but we're not taught to do that. So I just created this standard operating procedure, which allows the lenders and the borrowers to come together. And then all of a sudden you have harmony, because everybody is educated and everybody knows exactly what each other is supposed to do. So there's never any hanky-panky or faulty dealings or, you know, deals that go on and all of a sudden there's no security on the back end. It's standard operating procedure. That's all we've done. It's very simple. And
it's probably the second oldest profession. It's probably loaning or lending is probably the second oldest profession in the world.
Yeah, seriously. I would agree with that. It is. It's been being done since the beginning. Barter system is the same exact thing.
Yeah. And so tell us about how, well, no, let me back up. So the problem is, just like you said, there's people that have money. They're dying to find people like you and me. They're dying. They wish they knew. There's elderly people, or people, I say elderly, you know, over 65, 70, they're done working for a living. They really just want capital preservation. Some of them will tell you, if you'll just give me my damn money back, I'd be happy, but I'd like to make a little bit. But that's for God's sakes, don't lose my money. You know what I mean? And I hear it all the time. There are people out there that desperately need other folks like Chris and I, or you out there, and they're not looking to make 25% rate of return or loan shark rates of return. They just want a decent return on the money with a minimal amount of risk. And believe me, they're out there, and the goal is for us to find each other because they're perfect fits. They're perfect fits. And I think what you're doing with educating both sides, and then at the end, at the graduation ceremony, letting them all sit down in the same room, that's great because everyone knows what, I know
you
he
almost
knows.
create one giant networking event. Just
I know he knows, I know, and they know I know he knows. You know what I mean? Everybody knows, and they know the same thing, and like no one's going to go in and try to pull some crap.
No.
So,
and that's all it is. It's just, it's such a simple concept, but the most brilliant minds, the most brilliant things ever created are literally created at a 5th grade level. They're so simple that nobody ever thought of it because it's too simple to wrap your head around it. We make things too complicated, or I should say the institutions try to make things complicated so that we think we need them. This whole thing, being a lender or being a borrower, it is so simple. Like you said, it's been being done since it's probably the 2nd oldest thing being done. There's nothing hard about what we do.
What you just said, you go to a bank and try to get a mortgage loan. It takes 60 days, 90 days, 120 days. My God, you would think. You know what? I make a loan. I get up at 8. Someone calls me at 9. I go look at a property. I run some comps. By 2 o'clock, I'm cutting a check. Yep. For God's sake. It's just not that hard. And they have made it into like it's going to be some monumental. It's not. I went there. I pulled some comps. House is worth $150,000. The guy wants $60,000 in a first lien position. I'll call the title company and make sure he's actually the owner. I'll do some due diligence, maybe even call an appraiser, do a desktop or drive out there just so I got a third party to back my maybe too busy butt up a little bit. And then I'm done. Half a day, a day and a half. No 60 days, 90 days.
I just did a deal yesterday that took 2 days, but the borrower gave me everything I needed, the appraisal, all the BPO, they gave me all the information because they knew what I was needing. And because they knew, because they had the education.
They went to your class, they said, this is what a lender wants. Let me save him the breath of asking for it or giving it to him piece by piece. Let's just get it all in a nice little box and send it over to his office. And I'll get an answer like that, simple. And here's the other thing. I have a raising private money course myself. Private money changes everything, and I'm sure it's quite different from Cal Gills, and it's quite different from who's the other big guy? Oh, Jay Connor, which is Jay's my friend. I went to a mastermind with him, but everyone has their own way of doing things, and I had my own strategy that I was trying to get the money for. So my pitch was uniquely different because it was a little more niche down. And one of the biggest things, though, in raising private money is people think it's about them, and it's not about you. It's about the deal. It's about the deal. I mean, I use this analogy, and it's probably the worst analogy ever in the history of the world. But Charles Manson should be able to get this loan from the warden.
That might be a bad analogy.
It doesn't matter how many murders the man committed. It's how much collateral am I going to get if he doesn't pay me. That's all that matters.
Let me add to that because you're onto something really important that everybody needs to hear. Not just that, but the other thing so many people make the mistake, including this is how I learned. I made the mistake. When they come in, we're so used to when we need money, we want to go out and ask people for money. The second you ask somebody for money is the second you are in a position of weakness. If you're just going out asking for money, you're going to be very, very hard pressed to find money. Here's what you need to do, and it's so simple. Go out and solve people's problems. Everybody that you will ever meet has one common problem. That problem is they all want to make more money. So you, with your real estate deals, hold that key. You hold the answer to that problem. You can help them make more money. Teach them how to solve their problem. Your opportunity, your deal, which is exactly what it is. It's not your real estate deal. It's an opportunity to solve someone's problem. Go out and solve their problem. Show them how to make more money safer with really a lot less loss of control and just a much more consistent way to do it. By doing that, you will find that money will find its way to you so quickly the second you start solving people's problems. But if you just continue on the path that you've been taught of asking for money, you're never gonna actually make it because you're after the wrong thing. You're self-serving. You got to solve people's problems to get money.
Yeah, I was in a restaurant the other day and I was meeting someone who wanted to be mentored, and I was sitting there at the bar talking to him, and this place, we were waiting for a table at the restaurant, and they were pretty busy, so we had to sit at the bar for a while. And a lady pulls up next to me, dripping in diamonds. I mean, wherever she came from, she wasn't broke, or And so I started telling this young man where I'd been, what I'd done, how I'd found the money to do this, all my track record. I was going through the whole thing. And when we finally got a table and we sat down, I said, all that stuff I was telling you about the money and all that, since I wasn't talking to you, I was talking to the lady next to me.
Absolutely.
I left two cards at where I left my drink sit at the bar. I left 2 cards, and I went and sat down. That was my pitch for the day. I've gotten in a habit a long time ago of I got to do my pitch one time a day, and it can be face to face. It could be an appointment where people know they're getting pitched, or people that don't even know they're getting pitched are getting pitched.
Mm-hmm.
When
Absolutely. I've had that happen too, where people, you don't think they're listening, but they are. They want to know. They want the answers, but they don't have access to it, because the knowledge that people need to get off the hamster wheel, it's not knowledge that anyone's going to give you. It's knowledge you need to seek out. And if you're not out there seeking that knowledge out, which takes time and money, if you're not doing those 2 things, then you're never going to find it. No one's going to come and teach this stuff to you. Nobody, because nobody can make money off of it. And if an advisor can't get paid, they're not going to tell you about self-directed IRAs. And for the record, they can't get paid on self-directed IRAs. That's why if you haven't heard of what self-directed IRAs are, that's why nobody can get paid off of it. They can't figure out how to get paid, so they don't tell you about the greatest things out there. The biggest secrets of the wealthy have been there for hundreds of years, right under your nose. They're there. They've always been there, but nobody's told you how to use them because they can't get paid. So
they pass those laws. They passed those laws on the 401s and the IRAs and so on. Those legislators passed them in the middle of the night and among stacks and stacks and stacks of bills. They just never send you the memo, and they do it for themselves or do it for their community of politicians or wealthy. They pass those things for themselves, so there is a path not to pay taxes. They just don't send you the memo. Hey, growing
1041s. Learn about 1041s. My gosh, you want to see how not to pay taxes? It's right there. It's always been there. You even know about it.
1031, 1041. There's actually ones you can borrow money. Is that the 1041 where you can
1041 would be like charitable giving, like foundations and that.
Okay. 1031 is just a property exchange. Yep. Then there's even a property exchange where you can defer the tax. It's like a 1031, but the property hasn't been built yet because you're going to build it. There's all kinds of ways, but they don't send you the memo in the course on it. They just pass it because they understood it, because they wrote it. They know how to get through it. They tell their other colleagues, hey, look what we just got through. We don't have to pay taxes on this, that, and the other anymore. And then it goes into a vault that year with a stack of bills in legislation as high as a 10-story building, and they don't tell you where it is in the stack. They don't even mention it.
No. And it's funny that webinar that I'm giving away, the 90-minute webinar, literally what that teaches you is a 200-year-old system that's been around forever. It's the easiest thing in the world. It was created for the wealthy, by the wealthy. The Rockefellers, the wealthiest people pretty much in history, created this system. Basically, they created it so all their buddies had a way to do banking without paying taxes and a bunch of other stuff. The tax code wasn't written until 1913. And guess what? This just sort of made it around that. And oh gosh, there's so much, but just, watch the webinar. You'll learn so much about literally one of the biggest secrets of the wealthy. And it'll blow your mind when you see, how to get all the money back for all the cars you're ever going to buy, drive, and own. When you see how it's done, you're going to just slap yourself in the head. You're going to be like, this has been available to me all.
I'm going to get that one. I can't even resist that one. Go to reinvestorsummit.com/OPM, which stands for other people's money. Just go there and get this free 90-minute video. It's twofold. And there's another question I really want to ask you too, and I keep getting pushed off here. It's twofold. Making money is only half the equation. And that's the first step. And that's where, everyone wishes, well, if I could just make the money, you'll quickly find out that keeping that money is the other half of the equation, and how to defer, postpone, or otherwise not have to pay tax is the next school you'll go to. You go to the school of how to make money, and the very next enrollment you're going to need to do, or no one will even have to tell you, you'll figure it out pretty fast. You got to figure out how to not to give the money back.
Right.
And this is the the topic I wanted to get with you. Why is the educational system suck at this? I mean, from the time we go to school, starting in kindergarten, till the time basically we get out of college, unless we've picked a certain and smart enough to pick a certain path through a college venue or a university venue, they're not going to tell you crap about how to do any of this. And it's the most basic functions in the whole planet.
So, Mitch, that's a fantastic question, one that I've read books upon books upon books on. And only thing I can offer to you on that is my personal opinion, because really it's just the answer is so many things, but I'm going to give you my opinion. The reason why traditional education doesn't teach us how money works is because it's designed not to. It's literally, if you think of where education comes from and the people giving it, they're basically taught to teach us to be, I don't want to call it slaves, but basically to punch a clock, to trade hours for dollars. That's what we are taught. I don't care what you went to school for. Essentially, really, they trained you how to be a good employee. They really did. They didn't teach you, unless you found your way to the right courses, how to be an entrepreneur. So the reason they don't teach how money works is, first and foremost, they don't know. Nobody ever taught them how money really works, because the traditional system never taught them. So how can they pass that knowledge on? But the second reason is think of where education comes from and basically then chart it down. And you can do some very minor research and see exactly who created education. It was created by the same people that don't want you to learn how money works. And the reason they don't want you to learn is, well, the same reason you just mentioned. If there was a study done, if all the wealth in the world was basically distributed equally amongst everybody within a 10-year time frame, I think it was 10 years, might have been less, all that money would have ended back in the pockets of the people that had it in the beginning, because it's designed to work that way. They understand the principles of the wealthy. And if they taught everybody that in high school, in college, then banks would go out of business. Financial institutions would not be needed, or they would be needed in a completely different world and way. It's not designed to teach us that, and it never will. So if you think that that's going to change, no way. They won't, because to get an accredited course that's going to be offered in a college is next to impossible. There's been so many people that have tried getting financial education into schools, and guess what? They've all failed. Why? It's not because they don't have good material. It's not because they're not teaching the truth. It's because somebody doesn't want it there. That's my personal opinion, but you can take that for what it's worth.
I agree with you 100%. And so, and I'm going to make a bold statement, and this is not a blanket statement, and please don't write me and chastise me, but college A is not what it used to be. No. B is not necessary for everybody. And so I'm talking to you out there, if you don't have a college degree, or you didn't have a chance to get one, or you don't feel like you're college material, you're probably not. It may be the best thing that ever happened to you, because the greatest thing that ever happened to me was I didn't go to college. I tried a couple of semesters. When my business professor started explaining to me how he was filing bankruptcy, I had to seriously walk outside and beat up a locker. You know what I mean? I was like, why the hell am I here listening to a guy who's filing bankruptcy? And he's my professor in business. I was like, my God.
Yep. And if I might say another thing, and this certainly I could get hate mail for, but you know what? I don't care. The more haters I have, the more I know I'm speaking the truth. And I come from this world, so I've earned the right to do this. Most financial advisors, not all, but most advisors that are out there giving you advice are broker than you are when they're giving you the advice. So do you want to take advice from somebody that is not in the same financial position or has not done things that they're telling you to do? No, like that's just backwards. But that leads right into everything in our life. We are literally taking advice from people that don't and have never done it. Will Rogers says it best. The problem in America is not what people don't know. The problem in America is what people think they know that just ain't so. That's exactly the world we live in. We literally are swayed from doing the right thing by people that tell us, oh, you shouldn't do that. Oh, you couldn't do that. Why would you do that? That's a scam. But they've never done it themselves. How can you give advice on something if you've never experienced it and done it? Because wisdom, in its general sense, the most powerful thing on earth is wisdom, is from doing. It is from applying knowledge and doing something. Then you can give wisdom. Knowledge, okay, or the so-called, wizards or experts in the world, if they're so good at it, why aren't they doing it? Or why haven't they done it? If they haven't done it, they shouldn't be advising or telling you to do something. And most advisors haven't, just so you know.
Well, I always tell people, do your research. Make sure the person that you're paying for mentorship, or if you're lucky enough to have a mentor that's taking you under the arm, just do your research, for heaven's sakes. Make sure that they are financially successful, make sure that they are or have done exactly what it is they're trying to tell you to do, that they didn't just read it in a book, and make sure that they're the kind of person that you want to be on and off the field. So,
Well said. Well said.
Don't just go hang around a rich guy if he's not got the same moral compass that you want to have, because you'll get tainted with their smell. And it'll make it harder for you. Plus, you'll be tempted in other ways. So get with someone who's done it right, who is the person that you want to be on and off the field. And I think you'll do well. I certainly wouldn't, back when I started, I didn't want to listen to anybody unless they were making about $1 million a year. Today, I might move that bar to 3 or 4. You know what I mean? And don't be deceived by tax returns or whatever. Because like people can sometimes be making, if they're really good at what they do, they'll zero out on tax returns. That doesn't mean they're not making $1 million.
Oh, you got that right. Absolutely. Yeah, so, they just know something you don't know.
Yeah. So if you say, well, let me, if you got privy to someone's tax returns to try to make this decision, do not be fooled. Some of the wealthiest people in the world don't pay any taxes, and because that's what you want to learn how to that's what you want to learn from them. That's why you're there. Look at their lifestyle, look at how they run, and make sure that they're not living all on borrowed money or smoke and mirrors. But after that, and the other thing is, money has a place, and it's not everything. And the more you'll quickly find out. And tell me if you had this happen in your life. Was there a time in your life when you made more money than you ever made and realized that it was not going to fulfill all the things you thought it was?
Oh my God, absolutely. Literally, like I had to, there was a while back where, you get so fixated on having things, right? So you make all this money, then you're like, wow, I got all this money. I can have all these nice things. And you get all the nice things and you feel so empty. I've been there. I've had every nice car. I've had huge houses. I've had so many things, vacation houses in Mexico. You get all these things, but they don't make you happy. What makes you happy is when you serve other people, when you give back. That's what makes me happy. It might be different for you, but you know what? I have been there. I've made a lot of money in my career with different things, and I've had all the fancy things. And now I don't even care about the things anymore. I care about what I'm out there doing. I care about what I can do to change people's lives, because that in turn changes me. Givers gain, right? If you give, you get. That is the golden rule. And if you live your life with that one thing in mind, you will always be successful. Always. Ultimately successful.
Yeah, a man told me something I never forgot. Well, first of all, there is a natural step, and when you don't have any money, that's the priority. You got to change that. You got to get the money. The other things, he's talking higher level now, where material things. We all have what I call pent up demand. And when you don't have any money, there's a lot of things that you like or that you see everyone else have and you want to get them. What this man told me was, I never forgot. He says, look at this. Look at that truck. Look at those jet skis. Look at that boat. Look at that vacation home. Look at that stuff. I own all that stuff, right? I said, yeah. He says, no, that stuff owns me. Bingo. I run myself ragged trying to, I get my boat out, the battery's dead, I'm calling, I get on my jet skis, the kids run it into whatever, I got a lawsuit with so-and-so now because someone got hurt. He said, I don't own this stuff owns me. Mm-hmm. He said, I learned a long time ago, if it flies, floats, or faces the ocean, rent it. Rent it. If it flies, floats, or faces the ocean. I think there's some others I left out, but
good advice. Good advice.
Because you bought that vacation Mexico house, and then all of a sudden you're worrying about, is the hurricane going to hit my house? Do I have to send the people to board it up? What happens to that? And then I really don't want to go to Mexico this time. I think I want to go to Greece, but I feel like I need to go to Mexico because I own this house in Mexico. Oh, I know. I'll let my friends use the house, and that'll make me feel better. And then you go to use it, and all your stuff's missing, and it's broken, and it's got a hole in the wall. Anyways, enough is said about that.
Yep, absolutely.
Go to reinvestorsummit.com/OPM. Get your free video. Learn how to drive cars and get all the money back you paid for them. And it ain't about cars, people. It's the concept.
That's it. It's not about the car.
Spread the concept around whatever you want to, or whatever you can. It's been a really nice talk. I appreciate you very much.
Yeah, thank you for having me on the show.
I would like to get out to visit you when you're doing one of your events sometimes. So maybe I'll get your calendar.
Yeah, I was just in Texas. I was in Houston and Dallas a couple weeks back.
Yeah, I just love Texas. I've been around in Texas and Georgia, and the flyover states, man. The flyover states. I just love the flyover states.
I love the people in Texas. They're real, you know, and I spend a lot of time in California speaking, and I don't take offense to anybody, but, you know, that's just not real. The people in Texas, I don't mean to say that in the wrong way, but it's just not real. The people in Texas are so real. And I grew up in Buffalo, a small little Rust Belt city, and the people here are pretty real, but Texas has just got a very special thing about it. And I love it. You guys should be your own country. You really should.
I remember Buffalo. I was on the highway. It was snowing so bad. I don't know what year it was. It was right before Christmas that they told me to get out of my car. I was on the radio listening. They said, if you're on highway so-and-so, you need to get out of your car and go find a hotel right now because it's done. It's shut down. And then you could start seeing people like running out of their cars because they were afraid they weren't going to get a room if they didn't get there first, which gave me the idea that if I didn't get there first, I wasn't going to get a room. So I took out my car and started running, and I got a hotel, not a fancy place at all. It was the first one I came to. I just got a room. I was there for 3 days, thought I was going to miss Christmas altogether. I thought, you know, no way I'm going to get a flight. It's like 3 days before Christmas, and flights are going to be booked, and I'm just going to be spending Christmas, I guess, in this hotel. I don't know. Anyways, I wrote a really nice song about Mary, who I met right before Christmas. And, you know, in the song, it sounds like we really hit it off, but we really didn't. But but I didn't have anything to do with it.
She wasn't from Buffalo, was she?
I don't know. That was a long time ago. But anyways, I'll never forget that day. It snowed so hard that they just told us to get out of our cars and start walking until we got a hotel.
Well, that's kind of a real thing, and it's sick to think that we just think that's kind of normal.
I also was there one time and had a friend that played with Emmylou Harris, and he invited me to the outdoor amphitheater.
Oh yeah, it's gorgeous.
Oh, it was something else, man. It was a blast.
Art Park is gorgeous.
Yeah. All right, my friend. Anything else you want to add? Maybe tell the hopefuls out there, the new hopefuls, any last words of advice before maybe we wrap it up?
I would just say, you know, there's so many people that worry about money. They worry about, you know, they don't get into this. They don't chase their dream because they think that they need money, and money is the biggest mountain that they have to climb. But just remember that it's never actually about your resources. It's about how resourceful you can be. And if you just focus on being resourceful, focus on providing a service to others and giving to others. And what I mean by giving is not giving things or money. Give knowledge, give something that will solve their problems, solve people's problems, and they will solve your problem. And if you just keep those two things in mind, you're going to have a great career and tremendous success.
Absolutely. I appreciate you so much, Chris. It's been wonderful. Again, last chance, REInvestorSummit.com/OPM. Get over there. You know, Chris, that show notes is evergreen. You can put your schedule up there. You can put anything you want up there. Get your people to talk to my people. They'll put all the links up there for anything you want, a consultation, anything you need over there. Put it over there. I'm sure it'll be very robust because you have a lot to offer.
Yeah.
And guys, if you're interested in this conversation and this man, Chris Naugle, which I highly recommend, go to the show notes, figure out what he's got going on. When he gets even remotely close to you, get over there. You might even make up your mind to get there if it's not close, because sometimes you got to take bold steps to change your future. All right, this is Mitch Stephen with the Real Estate Investor Summit podcast. I'd like to thank everybody for stopping by to get you some Chris Naugle. I hope that you are achieving your goals and your dreams. If you're not, get a little more educated, get a little bit closer to the people that are. We're out of here.